So I think it's safe to say we all here, and if you're listening to us, have heard of the animated series Avatar and probably enjoy it. I think we're all around the same age group and enjoyed Avatar. Definitely a whole classic. No need to really glaze it too much. And if you are in the know, they're creating a Netflix live action version of that. Obviously, if y'all remember, not that it's connected, but they did have a live action attempt of Avatar back in the day, the Avatar movie, which I pretty sure I watched with y'all originally, y'all being Ace and Wes. And we had our opinions on that, or I think it was kind of a general consensus on that not being too good. But there's never nothing wrong with trying again and doing another live action adaptation of Avatar. So, everyone, well, not I want to say everyone, but people were, hyped for that, Avatar, more Avatar content. There was obviously that, what do you call it? Not spin off, but like continuation of Avatar.
Korra was low key better than Avatar. Korra was shit.
Wow,
I don't
really?
know
That's
if
the first
I've
time
never
I've
watched
heard
it,
that.
so I can't co-sign that. That sounds like a loaded statement, but yeah, I mean, if you've
You
seen it,
gotta watch it.
I'm kind of cool off. That's kind of like when people tell me to watch Dragon Ball Super. I'm like, or
You
Boruto.
ain't know you know absolutely nothing about it, and you still hating just to hate. I'm telling you, it's
Because
great.
these spin-off sequel series where it's not about the original like members, it's like it don't be good.
I'm
Well, actually,
telling
that's not
you,
applicable for Avatar Super. For Avatar, Avatar Super for Dragon Ball Super. I think that's more applicable for Boruto. Sorry, but yeah, I be seeing clips and it don't look good. But it's not a. But I just think bring that up to say. So obviously, there's been continual new adaptations of Avatar. It's obviously a series that people have loved, and uh, people want to can see more content about it. But ahead of the actual release of the live action Netflix series, there's been some concerns, both I guess in house and now from the people. I think there was actually multiple stories, but this was probably one of the biggest stories about some of the changes that they were going to make. Because obviously, when you make a new adaptation of a series, you have to consider the changes that you might make based off the time, based off you have new writers, so on and so forth. This one seems to be more akin to the times, if you will. So, salute to Variety. They put out an article. Netflix live action series Netflix live action Avatar series took out how sexist Sokka was in the original. With a quote, a lot of moments in the animated series were quote unquote iffy. So I guess we'll read a bit of this. Let's see. When Avatar: The Last Airbender makes its live action debut on Netflix next month, Sokka, I hope I'm saying, what is his name? Sokka, right? It's been a minute, so I don't remember.
yes,
Sokka sexism will be toned down considerably. In an interview with Entertainment Weekly cast members, holy moly, Kaya Wentio, I'm not sure how you say that, Katara, and Ian Owsley, Sokka, informed fans that Sokka sexism was discussed during the live action show's development and was deliberately cut away at no place in the new remake. There is more weight with realism in every way, Owsley said, which prompted the Katara actress to reveal, I feel like we also took out the element of how sexist Sokka was. I feel like there was a lot of moments in the original show that were iffy. Um, yeah, totally. Osley agreed. There were a lot of things that were redirected just because it might play a little differently in live action. As Entertainment Weekly notes, there are entire Reddit threads about soccer sexism. Jesus Christ, Reddit is a whole different world, huh? Discussing how the original Sokka, prior to his character journey, would make remarks like girls are better at fixing pants than guys, and guys are better at hunting and fighting. Damn, this is gonna turn into a topic about sexism. Damn. Soccer sexism won't be the only difference in Avatar fans seeing the Netflix Last Airbender. Showrunners Albert Kim previously said the show doesn't begin in the same way as the animated series. The live action series will also show the genocide of the Airbender people and the rise of the Fire Nation, which was only alluded to in the anime series. Okay, so I guess in some ways it's going to be a bit more graphic apparently. Jesus, which is interesting. I'm not reading this whole thing. Let's slow down. Unless you can scroll through it, and if there's anything worth bringing up, you can let me know. I guess. Yeah, that's actually interesting because that kind of reminds me of the One Piece live action series and how they kind of turned up the graphicness of that. Not that I think they took out anything. Well, obviously they took out a lot, but not that I think they took away anything that was relevant to the story. Anyway, so yeah, there you have it. They delivered this. The Netflix deliberately made efforts to tone down some of the elements of some of the character, I guess. Specifically when it comes to Sokka, this quote unquote sexism that they displayed during the original. And yeah, when I first saw this article and the headline, I definitely had to recall what was all said and done. I mean, they give an example when they said women are better at some things and men are better at other things. And I guess they was specifically during an arc where I forget the name. Dang, if this was like a TV podcast or like an anime podcast, we know that all the facts for off the top of our head. But there was a tribe of like female
The
warriors.
Kyoshi Warriors.
There you go. Thank you. And I think when they originally met them, they made comments towards they like when they were like surprised and they said probably made comments to the effect of you guys are fighting, you should let the men fight or something like that. And whenever you see changes like this, it really just comes down to not I don't want to boil it down to a simple point, but the question of like is it really productive to make these changes or should we stick to the source material? And apparently their rationale was it just wouldn't fit in a live action setting. Um, so I guess the question. Well, we can start off with the question of, what do y'all make of that rationale and their decision? Do you think it makes sense to make these type of changes due to the live action nature and maybe changing it from a modern perspective, or do you think that shows and yeah and remakes should try to stick to the source material as best as possible? What do you think goes?
Uh, I mean, I'm not opposed to them making changes for. They gave a few that were kind of suspect to me, but if the showrunners or creators find a legit reason to make changes from the source material because I think it'll fit better or whatever, I'm not opposed to that conceptually. But for one, like I think a big issue with the way that they're phrasing it here is that it sounds like because that was a character flaw, but he it was a big arc in the show that he got
Yeah,
over that sexism, which again we can discuss the actual definition, but yeah, I guess if you want to put that label on it, it was like a big part of his character becoming better as a person. And if you have a substitute for that and something that you think would work better, then that's fine. But removing someone's negative character traits just to not be uh what's the word I'm looking for?
Offensive.
Yeah, not be offensive is just it's stupid because like sure people are more seemingly more consider people's feelings, blah blah blah, don't want to be offensive now because it's kind of the wave, but it's just still happens. Like it's still a thing, and if you get rid of all negative aspects of people's character, then it's a problem because you have characters that aren't compelling because they don't have any ways to develop. And I don't know if that's what's going to happen here. I'm pretty skeptical, not just because of this, but because I've seen some clips of the show, and I guess
yeah,
you can reserve judgment, but I don't know. So I'm not opposed to it all the time, but it has to be done well and for a reason.
yeah. Somebody made a similar comment to kind of sum up what you were saying about like it's literally a part of his character arc that Sokka learns how stupid his sexist views were and begs the Koshi warriors to teach him. So yeah, it is kind of strange that they're literally implementing a change that could divert the way the original show went in terms of how a character grows. And I guess the conversation could be had that they can just write in another way that the character develops. I don't know if again that kind of gets to the conversation of is it cool to just change up the source material or not? But yeah, it's definitely it's interesting that they would take something that the show deliberately tackles. It's not like he just is remains a quote unquote sexist character. That the show deliberately made sure that he no longer has views and he grows as a character. Before I guess we get deeper into it, what about you, Ace? Do you think it makes sense to input some of these changes, or do you think they should stick to the source material?
Uh, I pretty much second what Ghost said. Like, if there is an um, alternative means of character growth in the story for Sokka, outside of his sexism, as defined or as described in this article, um, then yeah, they probably have a good chance at some success. Uh, but yeah, just removing it altogether um, without accounting for accounting for it somehow, accounting for his character growth somehow is probably not a good idea in general. And just to be clear, like my position on live action adaptations, I kind of talked about it with you, Quest. Um, is that I like more and more I do not see the point of them. If there was a if there was like a visual media, some type of like animation, um, that was already the source material. To me, we already got the ideal version of the story. We got the ideal version of Avatar. I don't see why we need a live action adaptation when we can just go back and watch the original show, which was
Well,
great
I'm not
actually.
sure how far we got into it. I do remember talking briefly about it before, but I think it's not uncommon for people to want to see what stuff will look like IRL.
Yeah, but I don't see, like, to me that's not only is it not a compelling reason to make a action adaptation just to see what it would look like for real, because again, like, on the other side of that, we've got the original source material that had the great story, that had the memorable characters, that had the perfectly good action sequences, like still great to
Facts.
rewatch. So we got all that, and the only benefit to to making a live action adaptation is you get to see it real. The downside is there's the possibility that they screw up the story, they screw up the characters, and either shortening it or cutting stuff or whatever, or doing stuff like this where we don't know if it's going to be a good or a bad thing. Um, and yeah, it might not look visually appealing either. Like maybe the stuff that worked in animation just isn't going to work in a
Yeah,
live action adaptation.
we did talk about that. I find like depending on how I don't know if it's just a matter of how action packed, but I guess fantastical.
Yeah,
Depending
yeah,
on the way like the action is displayed, it definitely doesn't translate over. Like
right.
there's not there's the thing is it's true, but if you really like, I do hold that same notion, but I've seen interestingly enough, it's usually done by like some fans. I've seen some really good fan generated versions of live actions fights from like Naruto and other animes like that. So it can be done, but it does seem like they get it wrong in a lot of instances.
Yeah, and I mean, to me, that's because most of the time it's about just capitalizing on a brand that's already established. It's already there. You already know you're gonna make. I mean, you can already project you're gonna make X amount of money, um,
But
going for already somebody that's already an established like IP
we
has
all
already made.
understand that it is common for people to want to see more content of their favorite. It's why they keep making Spider-Man movies. You don't just You
But
could like you
it's
could have
not
just
all
made.
remakes though.
What'd you say?
It's not all remakes though. Like they make a lot of iterations of Spider-Man, Batman, etc. But it's generally different storylines. Like they're not rehashing the same beats over and over.
For some, in some cases they do. Like we've seen like the origin story for Batman quite a few times in movies.
That that's true. That's true. But I mean, at least like the goal of the story is like they'll show different villains for the most part. It won't be like a beat for beat remake. I guess it'll have some variety,
Yeah,
which I think
not to
is
Yeah,
say
good.
that.
yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, like to your point, Quest. I do agree that people maybe people generally have this perception that they want to see more of their own, like more of the characters that they love or whatever. But at the same time, I wonder if we lived in a world where instead of just giving us and rehashing the same stuff, studios would go or look for either source material that does not have a visual medium already, like all the amazing fantasy that's out there, fantasy books that's out there. Just there's so many stories out there already. Plus, plus, um, having directors that and writers that are willing to come up with new stories to tell. If we lived in that world, would people have a problem with not getting as much of the same characters, especially if like a story was completely told? There there's no there's no more to tell. Like the
Yeah, that's what you're
original
saying.
intent of the story was completed. I feel like people would be quite content with getting more new things.
Yeah, yeah,
So yeah.
it's a very what if type of world because like on the one hand, uh, I yeah, I think that would breed more creativity and more desire to create new stories. But
Yeah.
the fact that like for like so pretty much since we've existed, people have continued to rewrite stories and tell them in different iterations in different mediums. It seems like people, why else would people do it besides if they want it? Like, did the first person that rebooted something or did a remake, did they do it because they think they were going to get like they were doing it based off an established the original content had established thing? They're pretty sure they were doing because hey, this was a great story. Now I want my version out there because I know people will enjoy it.
Hmm.
But yeah, so I guess going back to the kind of original thing, while you're not 100% pushed away by the idea of them changing up this character development, as long as they substantiate it with, still a compelling story for that character, there are other elements of a live action remake that make you a bit hesitant.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, to
Because
truly
that
like
is, because that
I
is the
don't.
main question. Like, does hearing this type of change make you not so interested in checking out the show or
It
a show?
does. This in particular does, because like when it's anything that has to do with um like I don't know, kind of like hot button topics, sexism definitely being one of them. I would be I would be perfect. I mean,
Sorry, one sec. Go, keep going.
yeah. I think I would be perfectly fine finding that it happened in the show, or um but hearing about it prior to the show coming out, it almost feels like they're trying to pander already. Like we're already getting evidence that they're trying to pander to a particular audience,
Yeah.
and that to me is not a good sign as far as um just like the purpose of the show. Because like I said, I'm already leery of it being a live action remake of something that I truly believe was like perfect. Like it doesn't need a live action remake.
Dang, that
And
kind of
then you're
sucks.
also starting to seem like you're pandering to the audience with this.
That kind of sucks, but I mean, I guess they could say the reason for that is to like temper people's expectations. That there are some changes, but yeah, what is the reasoning for coming out and saying, "Hey, that thing that happened in the old thing, don't like we changed it, we changed it up, it's not here." Like, what is the point of that?
I think it was. Was it? I have to look at the article again, but was it something that was asked in the interview and
Yeah,
they just
scroll back
That's
responded?
up.
what, yeah, that's what I was. I wasn't 100% clear on.
Only different. Just keep going. Avatar action. More rating rather than prompted. Oh, okay. So they were talking about how it being live action means that there's more weight on the developers to make everything more realistic, and then the actress for Katara just revealed, not just revealed, but they revealed as an example. We feel like how sexist Sokka was isn't reflective of real life, which I guess then kind of goes into the conversation. Was that like too cartoonish or too like what's the word I'm looking for? Not realistic. How he considered like females to be weaker warriors potentially.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, I don't think necessarily that mentality is unrealistic, but I will give them that. Like, if you're trying to make a show that's somewhat grounded in realism, at least as far as the characters are
Sorry.
concerned, you want to make it more serious. I guess is the way to put it. Like based on the trailers, that's what impression I get. Then in some ways Sokka was too goofy. So like he was overly like over the top with his with his ideas about women and quote unquote sexism. Um but the at the same time, like I don't think that I don't think the mentality is unrealistic. It's just the way he expressed it is what was like maybe too goofy for a more serious tone. So
Mm-hmm.
like toning it down, I'm more okay with, but completely removing it is um where the concern comes in more so.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, I think again it's been a minute, but yeah, I remember elements of. I mean, whenever you have a cartoon, you're going to kind of be more expressive with characters than you would with live action. Because I guess correct me if I'm wrong, but he was a bit more cowardly at some
Yeah,
points.
yeah, he was cowardly. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and again, I'm really leaning on the recent example of One Piece, but I think when it comes to live action, they tend to developers tend to take like cowardliness out of characters, or as much as it is in like animated versions, because I guess coward being that cowardly isn't realistic in IRL. I guess that's its own conversation.
I
This
mean
is
that
off topic, but is Luffy cowardly at all? I know nothing about One Piece,
Man,
but I
stick
just wondered who you were talking.
to don't go chasing waterfalls. Stick to the river and
okay,
ways you used to.
okay.
All right, just
there
I
is
was
No,
a
just
but
there
hold up.
is a
Let's
character in Luffy's
okay.
crew that's
I was just
that
curious.
is very cowardly.
I was just
I
curious.
guess
no,
to give
Quest, that's
context.
actually yeah,
Go
yeah,
ahead,
yeah. Go
Ace.
ahead. No,
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say that's a great point. Like if we want to sidebar talk about Usopp real quick from One Piece, who was the cowardly character, he wasn't played, in my opinion, he wasn't played well, especially when the cowardly parts came up. Like it works much better in the anime than to me it worked in the show, or I don't think it worked in the show at all.
Yeah.
Like Usopp's cowardliness. Um, so again, like that that's to my point about how kind of removing that goofy, like over the top quality makes sense to me if you're going for a more realistic or more serious tone.
Hmm.
Um,
And I guess
so
it all kind
that's
of goes back on your kind of hesitancy with live action in general when it was previously animated because I think when we watched the animated version of One Piece and a live action version sorry the anime version of One Piece and the anime slash cartoon version of Avatar if a character cowardly we don't look at that like that's strange, but I guess if we once we consume that and if you translate it into IRL and then the characters doesn't have that element, it's almost like the character isn't the original character that it should be.
right,
And
right.
again, I guess there's a conversation about like I don't know what's a good example of a cowardly character in a IRL slash live action show.
I'm sure there's
Yeah,
definitely
there
some.
definitely are examples. If anyone's watching, I guess they could, or if someone's Somebody could put in the comments. But I get whatever the case may be. That just seems to be a repeated thing that they don't really translate in IRL content. Um, yeah, I guess So I guess yeah, I guess if we are really sticking with the notion that like the level of quote unquote sexism that they displayed in the cartoon version isn't realistic, then I guess it makes a bit more sense. Um, and I guess maybe we should temper our expectations in general and just understand that live action version of shows they're gonna tone down how expressive a character was. Although there are some areas of, I keep thinking about the One Piece live action joint, and I would say Luffy, the main character, is in some ways more like lighthearted. Not more lighthearted, but I don't know. There's some ways where they kind of boost the character's character. It was kind of strange.
Yeah.
Um, I don't want to go down a whole rabbit hole, but uh, it's is it really sexist to think that men in general are stronger? Oh my gosh.
No.
Yeah, that's gonna be a no.
Yeah, no.
Um,
Yeah.
just on it in general, no.
Yeah, it sucks because when you see topics like this, like there's a crowd of people that get really butthurt and they're like, "This is why we live in a complete woke society and everything sucks and they want to turn everything and want to make women like men and men like women," which is true to some extent. But at the same time, it's just like it's really not that big of a deal. Except some things when you analyze them, it does seem like they are making blatant efforts to change things that aren't inherently that problematic in general. So it's kind of strange. And I guess, like shows and people are getting canceled every day, so I guess it's typically better to stay on the safe side, but then you stay on the safe side like this and then you get canceled anyway. Not canceled, but people are like, we're not watching this thing if they're gonna be changing stuff up, so it's like I don't know if a damned if you do, damned if you don't type of thing.
I don't know, man. Was anybody really gonna cancel Avatar if Sokka was as uh,
No one was gonna do that.
yeah, like
No.
uh,
Definitely not. I guess the other last thing, not last thing, I don't know if you guys have anything else, but it's interesting. Like the original was for a younger audience, and but it still had some like coming of age. Like okay, they're starting off as kids that are relatively innocent, and they're going through adversities, they're becoming more mature, and going through certain things. If they're saying this is going to be more real, and that's why they're toning it down, do you get the implication that it's going to be less for kids and it's going to have a more serious? I mean, they literally mentioned it, they're going to focus. They're going to actually put more emphasis on the genocide of the Airbenders. So was it one Mike or Uchi Wally?
Yeah, honestly, if they were trying to make it more grounded and realistic, then they would tone up the sexism. Like, 'cause in a society like that, it's gonna be super prevalent, way more than it would be in our society now. So,
Yeah, you
yeah,
also you do
you're
have to take in consideration of the setting of the story.
exactly like this is no modern society.
Yeah, there's a lot of elements of this where I mean, I guess it's good that they're giving they're setting people's expectations up to not be surprised by anything. But I guess you're surprising people by informing us about these changes that you're making.
Yeah, honestly, I feel like if they didn't say anything about it, then people might have noticed, but it wouldn't have really been a big thing.
nope.
Like,
That's what I'm saying. I think some of these companies, organizations, they shoot themselves in the foot by like trying to. And this was a single actor or the single actor speaking on. It's not like the writers of the show came out and said, "Hey, we're making these conscious decisions." So we can't blame the entire development team. But it seems
yeah,
like people really want to make a push by making them feel like they're on the right side of history by making some changes. But man, it's better to just show it and then let people come to their own conclusions. Because yeah,
yeah,
this started off on a bad for a lot of people.
yeah. And then last thing, this is kind of off topic, but I do think there's one extremely good example of an excellent animated adaptation that was done live action and was arguably better, and that is Lord of
I think
Lord of the Rings.
it cut off for a
yeah.
second.
Okay,
There
okay.
was there was an animated version before the movies.
Yeah,
Yeah, there was
and
like a
I
seven,
think
was
in
it
like
a
the
70s, 80s?
80s. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think the 80s, which was
That's almost
very good.
too many generations away for you to compare it, but
Yeah, and even
I'll
that, it's
believe you.
kind of like they had the caveat where they kind of did it 20 years later because they had better technology, better resources to do it. And it kind of made sense where, okay, you can't do a live action in the 80s that would be on the scale of the 2000 movies.
Hmm.
So it like it made sense why they would choose to adapt it, I think. But yeah,
Yeah, if
outside of that, I
something's
don't.
like super old, you definitely should reboot it, even if and obviously the changes you make along the way are a different story, but you should definitely remake it. Uh,
Yeah,
Question
but I
for
mean,
somebody that has not that knows nothing about nothing, but how old is Lord of the Rings? Like the original books?
I believe like
50s?
50s or 60s. What was it? I
I
want to
think
say
50s. Yeah.
56, but
Dang, I thought I thought those books were made like in the 2000s, just like the movies.
oh my god, Quest.
Hey man,
54, 54. 2 years off.
You know, Dune was from the 60s, right?
yeah, I wanted to go back and watch the old Doom, but y'all weren't with it.
No,
That
it's
movie
still
was. I didn't finish the whole thing. That thing was garbage.
Haters. Anyway, were you gonna say anything else, guys?
sad. Shoot. Yeah, it was something minor. I forgot. I'll say one thing. We got a comment from Mr. Moist. I wanted more with
That's
the
what's up.
blood bending
Blood Money. Oh, that must have
Mm.
been
original series.
Oh,
in the
so
real.
if they explore that more, and they got into Bloodbending and Korra.
Hmm.
Just
Okay,
saying,
that's
just
yeah.
saying.
Fair enough. That was like a one episode arc. It wasn't even meant to be that big, but that's a good point.
It was still fire though.
It was, and again, they it's a whole bigger thing. Korra, just saying, just saying.
I'll come around when I see a good like clip
Y'all
of
like
a.
y'all would like, especially you. I think you would like. It's like steampunk esque
Mm.
I'll
theme. Like they age it like it's a technological leap by what's I don't know if it's 100 years. It's less than that, but it's it's like kind of like the transition from Mistborn to the
I'm
Fallout series.
convinced. I'm convinced. I'm
I'm
convinced.
not. I'll
Like,
say
again, it's not a perfect series, but it's extremely good.
I'll
It's
probably come around if I see like a clip of a really good fight. I got to see like that's what really makes me want to go see a series. I got to see a really good fight, and then oh damn, I got to check this out. But all the same, yeah. I mean, I don't know if this will be the last time we talk about this. I'm sure. I know. I don't. We definitely don't have it lined up to watch it ourselves, but I'm sure there'll be more conversations regarding it. That's gonna suck if it sucks because the live action movie sucked. Like spoiler alert, it sucked. So if this sucks, damn.
This could. I don't think
Trying.
anything this does could be worse than a live action movie. Like that was one of the worst movies I've ever seen in my life. Egregiously, offensively bad.
Fair enough. There's nothing else. We can move on to the next topic.